So we're reaching critical mass. It's 10 o'clock, so I think we should start. Welcome. If you don't already have the workbook, then go to the tinyurl.com/presents. Welcome, Bernadette. Present so 503. If you go there, you'll find the workbook, which has a cover that looks a lot like this little picture here. So that workbook will help you. It's not going to be secrets, and it's got a lot of blank spaces for you to put down the secrets as you encounter them today. So welcome. Thank you for joining me from all the different places on Earth that you are joining me from. Let's get started. Finding my mouse and seeing if I can actually make this go forward. Look at that. No. Let me find the forward button. There you go. Okay, so this is me. For those of you who don't know me, and many of you do, this is me. That's me presenting at a conference at NIDA, the National Institute of Dramatic Art. It was actually a corporate conference on basically on futurism and excitement. We had people like Sean Acor, the Happiness Advantage guy, and Brene Brown, my favourite, all talking about vulnerability. And that was me in front of 800 people. Now that's hey Jennifer, that's something that some of you may be doing. You may be talking to audiences of that size, but some of you may be just working in meeting rooms. The presentation secrets I'm going to talk about today apply across the board because having presence when you present is it's about being confident. It's about having that sense of just being there. If you can't hear me, I think everybody seems to actually be all right. I saw some people joined earlier who didn't have speakers, turn your speakers on, but you're muted from my end. So if you need to actually speak out loud, which we'll do when we get to the questions part at the end, then you can do that. If you're in a shared environment, please be considerate of people around you. I mean, my voice is lovely, but you could probably just put it into a headset if you don't. And if you've got any problems with questions or sound or whatever, we have discovered we don't have a chat box, but we do have a question box. It seems apparently GoToWebinar doesn't offer a chat box, which seems bizarre because I can see one, but nobody else can. So if you have any questions, please just put them in the question box and I will be aware of that and I will be able to answer, essentially. So here we are. You've turned on your speakers. You've downloaded the workbook. In case you haven't worked it out, I speak quickly. Hello, Liza. I speak quickly, and I'm reasonably focused. I also tend to go off and come back to things, so please listen fast. There will be a recording of this session, but you only get access to the recording of the session if you stay till the end. So the spoils go to the people who turn up. So thank you for turning up. And thank you for those of you who were actually here on time. I love that. It's all we can do. So let's do some housekeeping. First of all, we've talked about the speakers. We've talked about the chat box. At the end of today, I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'm basically going to ask you to buy something from me. I'm going to give you some help where you can go for extra help. I just want to check that you know that there's no such thing as a free lunch, but there is such a thing as some free information. Welcome, Lynn. I saw you just moved in. Hello, Philippa. I can see you're here. Okay, let's move on. So this is the workbook. Again, if you haven't already downloaded it, please go do that. I had a wonderful designer pull it together in the last couple of days, and I think it's just beautiful. So feel free to go look for that. I've got... And for those of you who just joined us, for some reason the chat box is not working, but the question box is. So if you have any need to speak to me or you want to raise your hand or whatever, please feel free to use the question box. Okay. Talked about the chat box. There you go. There it is. Let's now talk about some of the information about presence and why it's important. Some of you may know about this. Malcolm Gladwell's book Blink outlines this research from a psychologist whose name is Nalini Ambady. She gave her students 10-second videotapes without sound, 3 of them, 10 seconds videotapes of teachers teaching, or professors teaching. What she found, she asked them to then rate the competence, the efficiency, the effectiveness, etc. of that particular teacher. And what she found was with three 10-second videotapes without sound, they rated the teacher at the same rate, with the same effectiveness ratings as a whole term. So thinking this was pretty amazing, she cut it down. She got 5-second videos without sound and asked people to rate, and the ratings remained the same. And then she went to 2-second videos and the ratings remained the same. So you have 2 seconds to impress someone. They've already made a decision about what you like and how effective or efficient you are within 2 seconds. This is why presence is important. Before you open your mouth, before your PowerPoint slide is seen, before you impress them with your brilliance, they're already making judgments. So in 2 seconds, it's happening. So this can be daunting, and I imagine for many of you, and I know for many of you, it is a daunting experience to be presenting, because it's really it's fast. 2 seconds, it's done. And many of you I know are dissatisfied with how you're performing in terms of how you're presenting right now, that you feel that there's things you could do differently. Maybe you're frustrated because you're smart, but it's not always getting across. That's smart, but you know so much and you're not necessarily getting across. So this is why presence is important, and this is why today I'm going to give you all the secrets I can about this. You may be, in fact, struggling to get attention in your environment, and it's possible you're even struggling for credibility. Sometimes our presence in the past may have undermined how it is that we come across. So that's what today is about. And thank you for tuning in. Struggling for credibility. Let me see. So essentially, presentation skills are a necessary evil. It's the price of entry to being more than you currently are. So to get a sense of I'd like to get a sense from you of what it's costing you right now. In the question box, because that's the only place we can interact. Sorry about that. Give me a sense. What does it cost you now, or what might it be costing you now, to not be as fully yourself when you present as you could be? So it may be that you need to count. Yeah, that this. Okay, so Dolores is already saying credibility. Okay, I've just, potential work, influence, absolutely. There may be money involved, by the way, in the cost of this. Clients and money, yes, absolutely. Thanks, Gina. What you don't know is who is not promoting you because you're not credible. What you don't know is who is saying, yeah, but, oh, really, I'm not sure she's got everything we want. You don't know what research funding you're not getting. You don't know what opportunities are not being presented to you. But I imagine you suspect that there is a cost to not being the biggest presence, the best presence, the most fully credible and impressive presence that you can be when you're presenting. And so that's what today's about. Let's move on. It's your turn. Take a moment. You've written, actually you've just given it to me in the chat box, so thank you very much. The workbook that you have, by the way, is actually fillable fields has fillable fields in PDF. Philippa, I see that you're having problems with the desktop version. There is a dial-in number. I don't know what it is, but if I can see you're still with me. Yeah, so Philippa, you're having troubles with the audio. Turn your speakers on. might be one of the things. I can see that I can't mute you. Welcome, Arathi. So yes, Philippa, try the speakers. So it's your turn. You've just given me some information about the whole how much it costs you. Because here's what you'd rather be. What you'd rather be is excited when you walk in walk into the room, when you stand in front of a room of people. You want to actually be ready. You want to be not only ready, but you want to actually feel like it's an opportunity to shine, like it's a let me at it kind of time. And that's where we want to get you. Now, it might take a few steps to get you there, but we're going to get you there. So here's today's agenda. The agenda today is essentially I want to give you the number one reason or number one thing you must do before you walk on stage. When I say stage, it could be a meeting room, it could be a client presentation, but the number one thing I'm going to give to you in a second. Well, in about a minute. The second thing I'm going to talk to you about are the 3 shifts that separate the top 5% of presenters and how you can use them in your next presentation. There are some really cool things in there and some great research people have done. So it's not just what works, it's what works and what the research says about what works. I'm going to give you a key to oozing credibility and allow you to have show you what you can do to get charisma. Aha! There's Philippa. Okay, Bernadette has suggested, Philippa, you can dial in, log in again, and Felicia's telling me there's a dial-in number, which is a Sydney number, 0290873802. Let me just take that number. Thank you, Felicia. I love your work. Let me just put that on and send that to 3602. Yeah, okay. Philippa, I am going to put it in the chat box right now. That's the number you dial and you will get the number. Thank you very much, Felicia. You're a genius. Dolores loves the images. Thank you. Okay. Torrin's saying if you have audio problems, the software needs to recognize the hardware. So if you connect to GoToMeeting application, pop-up windows ask if you accept and connect this to the hardware. Whoa. Lynn tells me it's a Java issue. I love this kind of thing. But the fortunate thing is we can all have charisma while we're doing it. Philippa, if it continues after you've dialed in, I'm not sure what we can do, but maybe you and I could actually have a chat later and I can send you a copy of the recording. If you can't hear me saying that. I just realized Philippa can't hear me saying all this. How cool is that? So let me just put that chat, that number that I just put in that Felicia gave me. Susan, the access code. I don't know what the access code is. Okay, let me just go. Give me 4 seconds. Thank you very much. Take a moment to think about what it is that that you want out of today. What's the most important thing? I've got the number one thing to do before you get on stage, the 3 things that are going to make you different, how to ooze credibility, and how to have charisma. Well, I just sent Philippa a little message saying, dial in here. Karen, you should be seeing an entire a whole presentation on screen. Belinda, welcome. Okay, Philippa, dial in. Oh, damn, where's Felicia? You know what? I'm just going to have to leave it. Sorry, Philippa, if you can't hear me, you can't hear me. That's unfortunately how it's going to happen. All right, good. Let's go. Let's move on. For the other people who are here, thank you very much for turning up. So there's also the issue of, the other thing I want to show you today is about how to be approachable. So let's get back to this question. I've got a poll for you. Here it is. I want to know what kind of rooms you're working in. So let me just put that poll up. What kind of rooms do you present to? Now, poll must be closed to enable screen sharing. All right, beautiful. So theoretically, you've got a poll on screen right now. Take a moment to fill it. Thank you very much. You're doing very, whoa, wow, excellent. You can obviously, thank you very much. 73%, oh, 80%, whoa, everybody's, oh, thank you so much for voting. Excellent. All right, beautiful. So everybody's voted. Let me close the poll, and that should now be able to share to the screen. So here you are. Essentially at the moment we've got a lot of people doing auditoriums, an awful lot of people in meeting rooms, a few people doing one-on-ones, some small groups, and a couple of others in other. So that's the poll right now. Beautiful. Let me have a look. Now the next question is, I've got another poll for you. What kind of audiences are you presenting to? So there you go, launching the poll for you. I've only given you 3 options. You feel free to tell me what tell me what you're doing. Excellent. Thank you so much for voting. Excellent. If you said other, if you said other on the poll, please let me know what that 28% other are. Belinda, empty ones. Empty. Okay, good. Thank you. Welcome, Belinda, by the way. Malika, you said you present to students. Are they hungry, busy, competitive? What's the qualities of the students you're presenting to? Students in itself could be 100 different people. Mildly curious, skeptical, dragged along by friends. Thanks, Jennifer. People who just want information. Liza, excellent, great. Sometimes it's exactly what they want. Gina wants to talk to, here it is, here's what we've got. Gina talks to busy, interested people. So you've got there's the poll results on the screen. You can see where we've got some hungry audiences, we've got some busy audiences, we've got some competitive audiences, and then we've got a few of the others. I will add that to the next time I do the poll. Thank you for your interaction. Marsh, welcome to the webinar. Jennifer speaks to human vacuum cleaners. I love that, Jennifer. That's fantastic. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. So now we get a sense of the rooms that you're working in and the audiences you're working with. Here's the question I'm going to ask you. What's the difference between the audiences how you're impacting audiences now and how you want to impact audiences in the future? What's the thing that you want to change? Take a moment, think about it, give me some idea in the question box, because our chat box is not working. What's the difference between what you're doing now and what you will do? How will you affect your audience differently? So Malika is talking about getting the audience to retain the information more effectively. Dolores wants to increase their engagement and transfer of knowledge. Gina, I get it. Some people want to be less nervous and not be anxious about it. Yep. You want to make an impression on them so they remember the key points you want to get across, get the points across. Absolutely, Michael. Increase their enthusiasm. Absolutely. So all of these things are incredibly valid and useful things. So let's find out how some of the things what we can do to make that happen. Just doing a little sidebar for a moment. Karen currently raises awareness and knowledge, but wants to leave the room and change practice, put knowledge into action. That's a tricky one. Increasing interactivity in the room. Excellent. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to do a quite quick sidebar now. I'm going to ask you about your professional education. What has your professional education so far, your engineering education or your data analytics education or your how to make organisational change education or your this is the way values work education, all of the education that you've done, what has it cost you so far? What does it cost you? How many thousands of dollars? Even in terms of what you've actually put together. I've got a poll for you. See you, Bernadette. Okay. I've got a poll for you. Let me see. How much money have you invested in your professional education so far? Define cost, Carl. Cost is literally time and money. So if you've paid $35,000 for a degree, then there you go. So some people are filling this in for me. Lots of people have spent less than 60,000. Really? Are you 12? You just finished high school? Excellent. 30. Yep. Michael, cost me so much sleep time. Absolutely. I certainly know I spend around 20,000 a year on my professional education, just going to seminars or conferences or whatever. There you go. Susan spent 32,000 on a master's in CRMD, whatever that is. Anne thinks she did it when university education is free, and I bet, Anne, you've been to a lot of seminars since then, either subsidised by your organisation or paid for by yourself. Yep, subsidised MBAs. Yeah, what does that actually cost? Yeah, plus, yes, Belinda, 15, probably approaching 150. You spend an awful lot more on your education than you actually think. And here is the interesting things. I'm going to show you the poll just so you can see that. Here is what the poll said. The poll said, it's going to show on your screen any second now. Sharing poll results. There it is. That's strange. Why is it not sharing? I love it when things happen. According to our poll, share. Sorry about this. There it is. I don't know why. It's not showing. The poll basically said that people spend at least 60 to 150K, but when you start to think about all the other things, oh, you can see it? It's on screen now. Beautiful. It's showing for you. It's just not showing for me. I love it. I love technical things. Thank you very much. All right, so let's get the screen back. We spend an awful lot of money on professional education, and if there were a new technique or a new idea in our profession, we'd be the first in line. That's why you're even at this webinar today. First in line for let's get the information and make the education right. But we spend way less time thinking about what it is that we need that's more in the soft area, and that's where I hang out. So I want to tell you Sandra's story. This is a true story. I've changed her name because she's a world-class researcher. She came along to one of my live trainings, Presentation Mastery, and we spent a couple of days playing with these techniques that I'm going to talk to you about now. She started out kind of nervous, and she kind of didn't wring her hands so much as there's just a fiddly, not calm, confident feel to her. She worked with me for a couple of days. We did some things. She played with ideas, played with ways of working with her presence. And then the next time she presented, which was I think it was an 11-minute or a 7-minute presentation to other researchers, which, by the way, is always stressful because you know they're going to ask you a question you don't want to answer, or a question that's kind of like, I've never thought of that in my research. So Sandra actually did this presentation, and when she finished, she sent me an email. She said, I didn't actually do anything, but my boss came up to me afterwards, tapped me on the shoulder and said, that's the best thing I've ever seen you do. And she didn't even know what she'd done. Her presence had changed so much that it became integrated into who she was. So let's work for that for you. This is what you can have, the presence. Your presence can change that much. So here we go. Let's find out. The number one thing that you can do when you work on stage, by the way, if you don't have the book, that's where the URL is, tinyurl.com/presence0503. There's actually a place for you to take notes. The first page is the number one thing you can do before I walk on stage. You can fill that in on the PDF, or you can print it out and write on it, whatever works for you. Okay, so There's one thing you can do, and that's essentially lower your cortisol, which is for stress, the stress-related chemical. You lower your cortisol and you increase your testosterone, which chemical exists in men and in women, obviously more in men than in women, and it's the confidence chemical, if you like. So you just have to do that, and that's the one thing. But here's how it happens. Here's how it works. You need to take up space. That's how you do it. There's a researcher at Harvard whose name is Amy Cuddy, who came up with the idea of what she calls power poses. They actually tested, and they found that when you stand in the Wonder Woman pose, that's Wonder Woman there, you know Wonder Woman, she looks like this. This is her pose. Let me show it to you. There you go. Wonder Woman, hands on hips, elbows wide apart, chest proud. This increases your testosterone and decreases your cortisol. It makes you less stressed, and more confident. So when you do that, that stance has an effect on the chemicals and on your brain. Your body changes your mind. Amy Cuddy's research, I can send you a link to her TED Talk. If you stay to the end. If you stay to the end, you'll get all the links. If you don't stay to the end, you'll never know. So thank you for hanging out. Here's a few more pictures of these power poses. What Cuddy found was when people held these poses for 2 to 3 minutes before speaking, they were seen by the people in their audiences as having more presence, as being more confident, as being more credible. And that's all you have to do. So that's the width, it's the taking up space, taking up space with your arms wide. Now, if you're in a chair, do you want to try it? Let's just do a pre-test. Before you become big, just see where you are, take an inventory of where you are now, how you feel, how confident you feel, how awake you feel, how alive you feel. This may be a function of how much coffee you've had, who knows. But take a moment to look at how you are now, and then take up more space, open up. So if you can't stand, do it while sitting. Put your hand behind your head and put your feet on the desk if you can. If you can stand, that's going to give you the best maximum effect. Maximum effect. So if you can stand while you're listening to me now, please do that. Just hold the Wonder Woman. I'm doing it now. Hold the Wonder Woman pose for just 2 or 3 minutes. By the way, this is not something you do on stage, although you can. The Wonder Woman kind of passes. But the more space you take up just before, the more you're going to get the sense of presence for yourself and for them. Because if you hold this for a minute, you will feel it differently in your body. This is why people who do yoga have that kind of calm when they walk out of a yoga class, because the cortisol and the testosterone have been all mucked around into the good places. And you can do this simply by doing it. By the way, Belinda Marsh at Fancy That Costumes is on our call today, and she's put in the question box, for maximum effect, you need to do this in costume, but it must be a costume from Fancy That Costumes in Crow's Nest. Talk to me about Belinda later if you need Belinda's stuff. There you go. She's got a free publicity for Belinda Marsh, because she would do this in any kind of costume. I've seen her do it in onesies. So yeah, So you've had an opportunity to feel that. Take a moment, write down the whole the take up space thing. Write down some notes there. See what the difference is. So if you've been holding this pose for a little while, just take a moment and see what the difference is compared to how it was before. Often you can feel it. People can actually feel that when they stand in the power poses and then just go back to normal, they feel more awake, like they've been for a swim or like they've been for a yoga class, because that's essentially what we're doing here. So you've had a chance to do that. Now I'm going to ask you to go out and test it. No, not right now. These things work because they work, and we know that they work chemically, and we know that they work, because we've tested the chemicals. But you need to test the effect. One of the best ways to test this is to, at a dinner party next time, ask people to just, can you just pay attention to me for a couple of minutes while I tell you what I'm going to do, and then leave the room, do the power pose for 2 minutes, come back in and ask them what the difference is. Test this in an environment where there's very little at stake. Do it at a team meeting. Do it at in a small, at coffee. Find out what the difference is when you use power poses to lower your cortisol and increase your testosterone. Because the more you practice, the more you test it, the more you understand what it's about. So here's the question to write down your answer in your workbook, and then give it to me in the question box. When are you going to practice this? What's the next place you will be practicing this? Okay, dinner parties. Yep. With the kids after school. Absolutely. Yes, Dolores. Yes, indeed. Where are you going to practice this? By the way, power poses, you can do the power poses inside with the students before a presentation at a team meeting tomorrow. Absolutely. This is such a simple thing, it can be deceptive. Yes, at dinner tonight is a great way. Coffee this afternoon, client meeting this morning, my next workshop, next meeting, absolutely. It's so simple you can undervalue it. You need to be really, really aware. Yes, when you're negotiating your lease, absolutely. So hold the power poses before you go into the meeting for 2 to 3 minutes. I find the bathroom is a great place for this. People tell me the photocopying room is also a great place. I've done it on street corners. I've certainly done it backstage. Street corners can be difficult. Choose your place, but practice it and see how you feel, because part of this is about you actually remembering before you move into any situation of negotiation or presentation to have presence. You have it, make it the maximum you can. Doing it for a meeting. Doing it before a meeting about client costs is a great one to do it. Client costing's always stressed me out. Lower your cortisol before you go to that kind of meeting. So let's talk about the 3 shifts. The 3 shifts that will move you into the top 5%. You've also got a place to put that in your workbook. So the first one is to move from nerves to excitement. I have Carolyn's story here. Again, it's a true story, not her real name. Carolyn is an academic researcher who was presenting to sometimes hostile audiences, sometimes just audiences that wanted to trick her and trip her up. And for more than 10, 15 years, she took beta blockers before every presentation. A beta blocker is a pharmaceutical drug that lowers your blood pressure, so it chemically makes you more calm. So she was so nervous she felt she needed to take chemical calmants before she actually presented. She did that for a number of years. So she came to Presentation Mastery and we played around with the power poses, and that kind of worked, but it was also about how she felt about this. And what we found was something that's quite common. She was very nervous when presenting. All the research on this has found that it's no point in being nervous and trying to calm down, because those two emotions are so far apart from each other. What the research says is if you're already nervous, make it excitement, tip it from nerves to excitement. So what we did with Carolyn was we found a time when she was super excitement. She found a time when she was super excited, which is similar to nerves. You know that excitement where it's almost nerves, it's almost excited, it's nervous excitement. For Carolyn, that was she just run the City to Surf just a couple of days before, and she'd been really excited before it, but all the adrenaline was pumping everywhere around the world. Exactly. So what we did was get her to imagine that she was about to do the City to Surf and then present. And so what she took into the presentation was excitement and nervousness, but not just nervousness. And the excitement made her more enthusiastic and more able to do it. She hasn't taken a beta blocker before a presentation ever since. Those of you who've worked in pharmaceuticals uh, know that that's pretty, oh, it's sad for the pharmaceutical company, no doubt, but it was good for her. And the other thing about excitement is this. Excitement makes you feel enthusiastic. This not very exciting looking gentleman is Stephen Secchi, who is a lecturer in psych at Cornell. Now, for reasons, I don't know why, I'll show you later why I think he did this, but he did some research around what if he did his exact lectures that he'd always done, and he'd been lecturing for more than 20 years, did the exact lectures he's always done, same books, same lectures, same grading policies, same exams, same office hours, same syllabus, same slides, same transparencies, same student demographics. What if he did all of the same, everything the same, except that he would be more enthusiastic when he presented, so more enthusiastic in his presentation, in his gestures, and in his voice. So he just added enthusiasm to his presentations. Here's the results. Overall, his course rating went from 2.5 out of 5, to over 4 out of 5, because basically he was enthusiastic. Now check it out. Not only was the addition to the gestures and the sound, the tone of enthusiasm, giving him an overall course rating that was much better, look how much people thought they learnt. They moved from a 3 to a 4. Look how much clearer they thought his goals were. See how much fairer they thought his grades were. And look how much better, look how terrible they thought the text was before, and now how great, and now it's getting a passing grade. That's because he changed his gestures, because he was enthusiastic. So being excited rather than nervous can make it. And this one, look at this. This is why I think he did it. Look how terribly enthusiastic they thought he was. Not just over a 2 for enthusiasm. So he upped his enthusiasm. We can see that increased here in this graph. But he also by being enthusiastic, made himself appear more accessible, more organised, more knowledgeable, and more tolerant. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want that? So Stephen Secchi at Cornell gave us that research. Now here's the second thing that makes the difference between the bottom 5 and the top 5. Here you go. Self-obsessed to audience-focused. So I had I've got a client whose name, let's call her Anna. Anna, that's not her real name. She's a senior manager in a major corporation. Her job entailed her speaking to audiences quite a lot, and what she found was she was constantly obsessed about a wobble in her voice. How many of you have had feel like you might have had a wobble in your voice at some point? And all the people I've worked with who have been nervous presenters, not yet excited, but nervous, are self-obsessed about, oh, my knees are wobbling, or my voice doesn't work, or I say a lot. It's all about themselves and self-obsession. When you flip that to go, what is the audience doing? What's the focus of the audience in this? That's when the things change. Because essentially, here's the bottom line: the meaning of your communication is the response that you get. This is why I say to you, for everything, test it. Go to the audience and ask them, how was that? You can even, if you trust the audience, say, what did you think about my voice? And see if they say that's a wobble. Most of the time, people don't even notice. A lot of the people who come to my live training to presentation mastery, when they say, oh, I was so nervous, my hands were shaking, I was like, never noticed, because you were telling us this really interesting story, or because your data was really useful, or because of what the communication was. Self-obsession doesn't work. Audience focus does work. So it's your turn. I've given you 2 so far. One about moving from nervousness to excitement. One about moving from self-obsession to audience focus. What are you going to do? Take a moment to write it down. Give me some feedback in the box. So far, what are you going to do with the self-obsession audience focus? What are you going to do with the nervousness to excitement? Give me some feedback. Okay, practice. Great. I can see some of you are filling in your workbook. Power poses, absolutely. Power poses are indeed a great way to start the day. Breathing, absolutely. Breathing it has the same effect as a beta blocker. Deep breathing will allow you to calm yourself down. Yes, absolutely. Mentally preparing for presentations and questions, mentally going through presentations. Preparing yourself beforehand, Julie, exactly who's in my audience and what do they need. Part of that is exactly that. Asking the audience a question, just a simple question. I can't see what anybody's doing on their workbook. I can just see when people flick out of being paying attention to the screen I've given you. So no, I can't see your workbook. Amy Cuddy in her TED Talk apparently talks about reviewing goals and affirmations in your power poses. So actually feeling strong when you do your goals and affirmations. Mantras work. Okay, figuring out how to sleep restfully the night before and stopping the excitement and fear kicking in too early. Absolutely, Jennifer. Yes, that's about the power poses will help there. I love the reminder for focusing on the audience. Yes, Bernadette, passionate about what I present, so I'm excited in the audience is an audience focus, so it's all about them. Yeah, you're already there, Bernadette. Great, thank you. Being curious about the audience. Yes. Getting used to hearing my own voice and how it might answer questions. Having some interesting facts to anchor an interview, absolutely. Beginning with the end in mind, visualizing an enthusiastic audience, absolutely. Future pacing works very well, Michael. And yes, drawing in a protective energy beforehand. The power poses will help. If you do that, drawing in that protective energy while doing a power pose, that will add to it. Value yourself and what you have to offer, then focus on them. Absolutely. Beautiful. Excellent. So you're all there. Taryn's going to sign up with my workshop. Excellent. Okay, so preparation isn't practice. This is the third thing that makes the difference between the top 5% and everybody else. Preparation is not practice. Spending thousands of minutes making your presentation perfect doesn't actually equal any practice. You've got to actually go through it, preferably with an audience. If you can't do it with an audience, at least do it out loud, and certainly do it standing up, because here is the next most important thing. Let me get you straight to there. There we are, we've got those. Oozing credibility. When you want to use credibility, here is the most important thing to do. Stand up. Here's the stats. When you just talk rather than present, if you just talk, sorry, get my presenting, 43% more likely to be persuaded if you present. So if you just sit and talk, 100 people sign up. 100 people are into your idea. 100 people get what you're talking about. But 43% more, 143 people will actually be interested when you actually present rather than just talk. If you sit down and present, 58% of both people will buy your product. But if you stand up and use visuals, 79% of people will use your product or sign up to your idea. Standing up and using visual aids. Also, by the way, people rate people who stand, presenters who stand and use visuals are rated as more professional, as more persuasive, as more credible, as more interesting, and as more prepared, just by using visuals. And by the way, they'll pay more, 26% more if you stand up. Now, by the way, this can feel difficult if you're in a small meeting to stand up. My trick is grab the whiteboard marker. If there isn't a whiteboard, draw a picture on the wall with your hands, not with a crayon. It could be really embarrassing. But that's essentially it. Stand up, grab the microphone and see what happens. Microphone. If there's a microphone, grab the microphone. And how to have charisma and be more approachable. This is the important thing. I'm just speeding up because I can see that we're coming towards the end of the time, and I want to make sure I finish with you on time. To have charisma and be more approachable, there is a note placed to write this down in your book. This research came from, I call it Twinkle Toes. This research came from, pardon me, there it is. This research came from, let me just get the exact name of the researcher, because it's always important to recognise the people who do this. Harvard, it's a Harvard MIT lecturer whose name is Olivia Fox-Caban. Olivia Fox-Caban has been researching charisma for years and years, and one of the things that you and I can do right now is put your attention in your toes. So when you're presenting, put your attention in your toes. It seems silly, it seems so small, but it works. I have over and over in Presentation Mastering My Life presentation, I've actually over and over got people to play with this, and they don't know what the difference is, but they can tell you that they feel different, and the audience feels different. All the stuff I've talked to you about today is essentially about you having a self-perception of feeling confident, of being more enthusiastic, and you, by having that self-perception, the audience also has it. So what do I mean, Belinda? It's while you're sitting where you are, just tell me, what is it like in your toes? All we're doing is going, put my attention on my toes. So while I'm speaking, I'm thinking about my toes. Which foot is warmer? Which toe is most comfortable? Open-toed shoes. Belinda, you can actually put them inside shoes if you want to, but yes, open-toed shoes would work. Essentially, it's not about looking at your toes, it's about putting your attention into your toes. It's not about people seeing your toes, it's about you being aware of your toes. I believe what it does is put you into your body. And yes, and you will have to practice this. Try this one while having conversations with people. It might distract you from what you're saying initially, but over time what you want to be able to do, yes, Gillian, I'm talking about being present and stopping thinking about other distractions. Belinda's thinking about her toes and she can't hear a word I'm saying. It's all right. You need to practice this. Practice this at a dinner party. Practice this while having coffee with people. Practice essentially just being. I believe what it does is what the New Age people say is grounding you. But putting your awareness, exactly, Susan, we are on the same wavelength. Mindfulness, exactly, yes. Yes, Michael needs a foot massage. Check it out. There's probably some major benefits in having a foot massage or some reflexology before you actually start a presentation. Who knows? I've created a whole tax deductible industry here. Get yourself a foot massage before you start. Then stand in the bathroom in your Wonder Woman pose, and then gesture more enthusiastically. The world will change. But this is beautiful research, and it's so simple that we should all be doing it, and we can all be doing it. There'll be a run on all the open-toed shoes. Men will start wearing open-toe shoes. We'll see what happens. So that's charisma and approachability. Okay, Jennifer's saying if people do yoga, they will be able to stretch their toes or become aware of the muscles in their pinky, or pressing that toe into your shoe if your foot's restricted. Absolutely. You can move your toes. That will put your attention into your toes. You can certainly stretch your toes. You don't want to fiddle, but what you want to do is essentially be aware of what's happening. Get grounded into your toes. Many of these things, by the way, you practice in yoga. Maybe I should take up yoga. Okay, so that's twinkle toes. So I'm going to ask you which one's the most important of the 5 things that we've looked at: the Wonder Woman pose, the going from nerves to excitement and using enthusiasm, the being obsessed with the audience or focused on the audience rather than in focus with yourself, preparing and practicing, or even practicing while preparing, standing up and using visuals, or the twinkle toes. Which one of these is the most important? Belinda's saying it's the reminder to focus on the audience, not yourself and your own nerves. Absolutely. Michael's suggesting Buddhist walking meditation works. Dolores is going to focus on the audience. Anne's going to practice. Excellent. Excellent. So you've got nerves to excitement. Thank you, Kate. Hello, Kate. I didn't see you there. Bernadette's going to stand or walk amongst the audience. Ooh, with your toes. With your toes and your awareness in your toes, your twinkle toes. Absolutely. Jennifer's going to try every one of them. Yes. Oh, it's a smorgasbord. Use them all. Yes. You could bathe your feet like Jesus. Thank you, Belinda. It's wonderful having you on the call. Not letting nerves turn to dread, but rather noticing it again and allowing the space for excitement. Audience focus. Yes, Michael. You need the confidence to do it first. So see the other, exactly. Start with the power poses. It will give you confidence, and then you can start to notice who's in the audience. By the way, you know that old trick people talk about, picture the audience naked? That's just a way of making you audience focused. I don't know if it works. I've never needed to do it. Julie wants things walking around, interacting and engaging with the audience. Yes, doing that before the session often works. Malika, the practicing and having awareness in your toes, understanding and harnessing the sameness between fear and excitement. Dolores, you can do that. You could totally do that. So here at the beginning of the call, I asked you to think about the difference that you wanted to see in your audience, how your audience was going to be different from the beginning, from how they are now, how they were yesterday, and how they will be this afternoon. Because that's the important thing. If you want to move your audience from a place where they're distrustful or a place where they're Belinda, I will send you sorry, Belinda's just asked for a recap on the best ways to ooze credibility. Stand up. That's the best ways to ooze credibility. All the standing up stuff and using visuals, that's where the use credibility comes from. There's also a video, by the way, for those of you who've hung around this long. I'll send you a link to the video. Cherry's saying, enthusiasm definitely works because it also comes across as excitement. Exactly, and the more excited you are and the more you gesture, the more it goes from nerves to excitement. Okay, cool. So if you want to make that difference, if you want to move them from skeptical to listening, if you want to move your audience from being hungry for information to hungry to buy, if you want to do all these things, essentially, these are the keys. There is a place for you to write your actions from today. If you want to do that, feel free to do that now. And then I'm going to talk to you about what other support and help you actually need to make this happen. All right. Essentially, we've already spoken about this, what you need is practice. You need to actually do this in a live environment, and whether that be a live environment like a team meeting or a live environment like your nearest and dearest or your best friends or your cat, you need to practice. The best practice will be in a simulated environment where you're actually presenting. You'll need independent feedback, so you need to get audience-like objects to talk to you, but even better, audience-like objects who can actually also say to you, I can see you putting your attention in your toes, but that means don't look at your toes. So the people who know what you're doing while you're doing it. You also need some structures, because obviously in an hour I've been able to give you some useful things, but you need some structures about how people learn so you can actually support their learning and make their learning styles work for you. You need some structures on how you can outsource. One of the things that presenters tend to do early in their careers is assume that they know everything and the audience knows nothing. The more that you make the audience believe that they know some things, the easier it is. And how do you outsource and leverage their mindset and their brains? That's what you need to know. And you also need to know how to make your life count. And I don't mean that in terms of the new age way of making your life count. I mean in terms of being able to leverage the stories and the case studies that you already know, the examples that you have seen and experienced personally, or that you've seen others do, or you've read about, using all the stories in all of your life. I often say to presenters who are going out there, your entire life has brought you to this moment and you are so prepared. No one else has lived your life, and how do you make your life count, your stories, your examples? That's what you need to be able to do to make your presentations come alive. And essentially, you also need a structure for how relationships work, how to build relationships fast. So coming down to the end, so if you want some help from me, here's what I can offer you. I can offer you all of those things, and here's how it works. We're essentially looking at formal webinars, which will give you those structures of relationship, the structures for house outsourcing within the room, structures for making your life count, and the ability to, and also the independent feedback. So there's formal webinars, and then a membership site with all the goodies and all the treasures, and access to my Presentation Mastery live training, which is in Sydney. There's one on April 15. There are 2 more in the year. And a closed Facebook group where you can post questions, get the answers that you want, all that kind of stuff. To sign up, and this price is only for today, and I'm not sharing this presentation with anybody who didn't stay till the end. Here is the link. It's presenting.securecheckout.com/presents. I've just put it into the question answer box, so you should have the answer at any time. $9.97, so it's for 4 membership site, 4 webinars, membership site, and the live training, and the closed Facebook group, and obviously access to me for any of your questions when you want to practice or play. So I'm going to leave that online. If you've got questions now, I'm very happy to answer some of them. I'll stay online for the next 10-15 minutes just to answer whatever. It is now 10:57, so 3 more minutes worth of stuff. What are your questions? How do you apply this? Which ones of these do you need to have more data on? Thank you, David. Okay. Thanks, David. So David has to go. If you need to go, you have to go. I will send you it. You'll get an email directly from GoToWebinar in a moment. The dates for the Sydney live training are 15th of April, which is a Wednesday. I also have them in September, one in September and one in August. Thanks, Anne. If you've got any questions, you can send it to me. Techniques for engaging people around a topic that they may think is fluffy, Belinda. Getting them to take you seriously and see value from the get-go. Okay, Belinda, beautiful. Thanks, Bernadette. Thanks, Liza. Okay, so Belinda, here's the short answer to that. You need to build them an excellent wireframe. You've got to sell it to them. And it's not about starting fluffy. It's about starting at what they want. It's a sales process. Torrin, okay, back for September workshops. Can't do April. Got to go now. Okay, thanks, Torrin. So, Belinda, it's a sales process. You've got to find out what's important to them. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Torrin. People are leaving. Belinda, hold on the line. I'll tell you in a second. What when you have compliance content and limited time? Okay, Susan, I'll answer that question in a second. Let me just give it to Belinda. Belinda, it's a sales process. You've got to find out what's important to them and then move them to play rather than starting with play. That's essentially what you want to do. Now, let me see. We had Susan had a question about compliance. Where is it, Susan? I've lost you. Now I've got Belinda. Susan, you have compliance content and limited time. It's actually the same answer as Belinda. If you've got content that's going to be difficult for them or that they're not prepared necessarily yet to get into, it's a sales process again. You need to understand what their problem is and articulate their problem better than they do, and then you need to be able to promise them how much better it's going to be when they have your information. So you need a problem and then a promise. When you articulate their problem better than they can, they go, oh, this woman gets me, I want to do it. Your compliance content has to be, you have to have a really good reason why they need to comply, and it's not just because it's the rules, by the way. I was doing a program with insurance company a couple of months ago, and someone was teaching them compliance on doing the 100 points of ID, and she just kept saying, it's the law, it's the law, it's the law. It's like, that's not enough. So we found her a story of someone whose identity had been stolen, and she talked about her friend who had their identity stolen and all the issues that had occurred because her identity was stolen, including, you know, losing $30,000 off her mortgage, which took 6 months to return. That was a bigger why for them, a bigger sales thing than any compliance or you must do this thing. Saying to people they must do it, that only works a little bit of the time. You have to actually sell it to them, Susan, and that's the structure of how people learn. It's the structure of how people sign up. It's the structure of how people basically do it. And when you present in a way that gives them that upfront, you've got it. So it's the structure of learning. We talk about that in the, I think it's the first webinar that I do is actually about that, leveraging the structure of how people learn and how people buy into ideas. So yeah, any other questions? Thanks, Susan. Brilliant. Who we got left? We got still got some people left. If you've got any questions, happy to talk about them. Thanks, Gillian. Lovely to have you. People are so polite. Excellent. Yes, thank you, Malika. Lovely to have you in the room. Thank you, Felicia. I know. Excellent. Thanks, Bernadine. Hey, Kate. Thank you. If you have any other questions, this is essentially, Susan, to get the links and the recording, you don't need to stay any longer. The GoToWebinar will automatically send you an email with all the links in an hour. So it basically gives me enough time to actually put the recording onto the website. So if you leave now, it's okay. You will get everything. Thank you very much for staying. All right. Thanks. Perfect. Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Lynn. All right. You got any other questions? How many of you are dealing with difficult content or the compliance content, or like Belinda was saying, content that they're not ready, that they think is fluffy or they think is not important? That seems to be a common thing for us. We're providing information we know they need, but they don't necessarily want it. This is what the structure of understanding the structure of people's learning is, so that you can actually get through them straight away. If your issue is majorly confidence, when you have those structures underneath you, it can make a real big difference when you know how to make your life count and use your stories. All right, excellent. I think we're going to close the webinar off now because I can see there's 5 of you left. And 3 of you are in a different screen. So thank you very much for joining me on my first big webinar, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Bye-bye. Thanks, Jen. Bye-bye. Kate, see you later.